In this video, we're going to expand on what we learned about date formats in the last video, this time looking at how time works in Excel. So we previously learned that the date formats in Excel are represented as the elapsed number of days since the 1st of January 1900. So in this example here, I've got today and tomorrow, and there's been 45,066 days since the 1st of January 1900. That is the 20th of May and the 21st of May. If we format this in terms of time, so if we make this equal this number and this one equal this number, we'll see that they're both 0000, which would represent midnight. But why is that? It's important to remember at this point that when we change the format of a cell, we don't actually change the value that's in that cell. All we've done is change the way it's presented on the screen. Let me show you some proof of that. Going back to our working example, we can see that we've got the three different formats here. If we look at the top, we've got number, we've got date, and we've got time. If I highlight over these three and change them all to number, they'll all match because the value in the cells are exactly the same. The format and how we're displaying them is all now in number. If we change that to short date, they'll all display as a date. And if we change it to time, they'll all display as a time. So to properly understand how times work in Excel, we need to see more than this whole number example of 45,066. If I click this button up here, increase decimal, I can add a couple of decimals onto the end of that. In fact, I can add loads just to prove that that is exactly 45,066. There's no decimal element to it at all at the moment. We go back to 45,066.00, and this time I'm just going to change it and put 0.5 on the end. You'll see that this goes to 12 midday, and that is because we are halfway between the current day 45,066 and 45,067, which would be tomorrow. We're halfway between 0.5. So if we go and change this to 0.75, we get to 6 o'clock in the evening because we are 3/4 of the way to the next day. If we add one on, as we know, so we're going to go 45,067, we get to the next day and we're back at midnight again. We've previously formatted these three cells as number, date and time, but actually they all equal the same and they hold a date and a time. If we make this one equal any of these, but in this case we're going to go for the number one, equal that. And then if we change it in here, you'll see that there's no date and time format. But if you go into more number formats and go to custom, scroll this down, and then you'll see all these sort of things in here. DD, MM, YYYY, HH, :MM. Date, month, year, hour, minutes. So let's go for that one. Click OK. And now we've got the date, but also the time. So if we add onto this 1, we get the next day. If we add 1.5, we get midday the next day. Equally, as per a minute ago, if we add 1.75, we get the next day at 6 p.m. At this point, I'm going to quickly segue out of the example and show you a really quick way to get today's date and the exact time it is now to the second in a cell. So I showed you in the dates video that we can add equals today, open brackets, close brackets as a formula in a cell, and it will give you today's date. If you want today's date and the time as it is now to the second, we type equals now, open brackets, close brackets, and we get that in the cell. Now we can check that against the Windows time here, so 20:02:26, but we haven't got the seconds on there. I showed you a minute ago around custom formatting. So if we go back into here, we can literally just type in here whatever we want. So we've added some seconds, SS, click OK, and we've got the seconds. Let's check that against the Windows clock. And you can see the Windows clock is ahead by about 22 seconds and it's counting on. This has stayed stationary. Why is that? Because it's the point that we enter the formula in the cell. That is the time we get. So if we double click in here, hit enter again, you'll see that it updates. Keep double clicking, enter, double click, enter. It's going on by a second each time, or each time I click it, I get the live time. Now we can get really creative with custom formats because in here, I showed you adding seconds a minute ago, but if you wanted to add something else, let's say that we wanted, so if you look at the sample up here, it gives you a really good indicator of what you're going to get. So if we put DDDD, we get Saturday. We could put a space here, so Saturday, 20th. Get rid of that slash, and let's change the month into Word. Get rid of that slash there. And we've got Saturday, 20th of May, 2023. click OK, and that will display in the cell. Again, we can just clicking enter, and that will just update that to the second. So let's try and do a practical example where, let's say we're going to send a parcel now, and it's going to get there in 3 days time, like a few hours, a few minutes after that. And we want to calculate the time difference between when it gets there and when we sent it. Then I'll show you how we can manipulate some of that data to translate it into hours and days and minutes, or whatever view you want to see it in. So our parcel's due for delivery at about 7:20 on Wednesday morning. So we're going to send it now. So equals now, open brackets, close brackets. How long is it going to take to get there? We want to subtract one from the other. So equals the delivery time minus the parcel sent time, 3.46. So we know that's 3 days and then 0.46 of a day. But expressed in that way is quite confusing. So can we translate that 46 into some minutes or some hours? So the answer in Excel is nearly always yes, and it is in this case. But I'm going to cut this video here and show you in the next one. So if you want to see that, join me and I'll take you through all the formulas I use to achieve it in detail.